Have you heard about these smart binoculars? The ones that have the built-in camera, software to identify birds, 32mm objectives? I'm not talking about Swarovski's $5,500 AX Vizio, but the $400 Solvia 8x32 AI binoculars by MatataXplore. I've been testing these out for the last month, and I keep coming back to the question, do we actually want technology in our binoculars? Even if the answer is no, these are still a compelling buy, and I'll show you why. Before going any further, I want to give a proper disclosure that MatataXplore did send me these binoculars to review. I'm not being compensated for this video, and they had no input on what I say here, which will probably be obvious by the end of the video. Let's start with what you get right out of the box. I was sent the mid-tier Plus kit, which comes with a few accessories, but MatataXplore sells these as a standard kit with just the binoculars, the Plus kit, and a Pro kit. A few features they promote, which we'll discuss, are the AI that identifies 10,000 plus bird species. They list a 400mm equivalency, which is interesting to put on a binocular's magnification in millimeter terms, definitely targeting a photographer audience. Some basic features, and this is the one place that we see the acronym ED pointing out their extra low dispersion elements, which reduce chromatic aberration, improves image sharpness, and color fidelity. Opening the box, we find some printed material and a case holding all the equipment. In that packet is a welcome note, a quick start guide with basic instructions for using the Solvias, and a more in-depth user guide. This is the Plus kit, which comes with a soft case that unzips to reveal our binoculars and other accessories, like a tripod adapter, a USB cable, notably Type A to Type C, but no charging brick included, and a neck strap. The binoculars come with lens caps on both ends, adjustable eye cups with multiple stopping points for your preferred eye relief. This little rubber door reveals data ports and is a good reminder that these are IP64 rated for dust and splash resistance, so you definitely want to be careful with these in the rain. And the Plus kit comes with a SanDisk 64GB micro SD card, which is a worthy upgrade from the 16GB you get in the standard kit, especially with how much memory card prices are increasing due to AI-driven RAM shortages. The binoculars have 4 buttons for power on-off, AI recognition, taking photos, and video. Holding down the power button for just a couple seconds turns them on. And then there's a walkthrough for how to properly adjust them for your use. This is a little more complicated than your typical binocular diopter adjustment because you first focus the camera, then adjust both of your eyes independently. And this is really important to get right, or else your photos are going to be a little blurry despite the image looking sharp to your eyes through the binoculars. I snapped some photos right in my office to make sure the focus was good. I always find the crispness of text good for testing, and those photos are saved in this gallery. There is a tab that saves your identification history and a tab to get into different camera settings, whether you are shooting action, handheld, static, or want to go fully manual. Before going into my review, the last thing I wanted to show was a comparison to similar binoculars. Here they are side by side with another pair of 8x30 binoculars, the ProStaff P3s by Nikon. Overall about the same dimensions, but the Solvias need to be a bit bulkier because they've got a camera and computer built in. Worth noting that the ProStaffs weigh 16.8 ounces and the Solvias are 24 ounces. So I've been using these over the past month and they are really fun to use. I'll break down this review in 3 parts: how they operate as binoculars, as a camera, and then the AI and software. Compared to other binoculars in this class of full-size 8x32s, they are about on par with the competition at this price point. Some of this is going to be hard to show, but the image is bright and sharp down the center of the barrel, but you see a little vignetting and softness on the edges. One funky thing about these binoculars is that the camera is inside the left barrel. You almost never notice it, probably because the exit pupil, that beam of light hitting your eye, is so much wider than the camera module that you don't perceive it. Occasionally you can tell something is off, and one of my friends trying them out likened it to having a temporary astigmatism. The focus knob is pretty big and sits high, so it does take about 6 turns for me to get from close focus to infinity. The trade-off there being you do get precise adjustments of the focus, which is helpful when taking a picture. One number I feel like doesn't get talked about enough when choosing binoculars is the field of view. We tend to fixate on magnification and the size of the objective lens, but how much you can actually see at that magnification can vary drastically. I pulled a list of the top-selling 8x32 binoculars on B&H and plotted out their field of view versus their price. Here you can see how despite both being 8x32s, the Vortex Razor UHD has a 34% larger field of view than the Syntax Night D80. It seems worth pointing out that higher prices don't necessarily result in larger field of view, as you can see with these top-end binoculars from Swarovski, Leica, and Zeiss, all closer to $2,500, but some matching their sub-$500 competitors. This obviously ignores things like build quality, type of glass, and coatings used, and that luxury name, but hopefully you get my point. And the point I need to add here is for the Solvias, which have a 7.6 degree field, or 388.5 feet across as viewed at 1,000 yards. This does fit in with the cluster of other sub-$500 8x32s, but none of those come with cameras built in. Having a camera built into your binocular seems like a dream come true, and the Solvias bring that dream to life at a great price point. The difficulty is getting a good image, because the light coming through a single lens and hitting that tiny sensor will never look as good as the bright, dual-eyed binocular view that you got. Here are a few sample photos I took while out birding. I laugh at these a bit because if I was shooting with my dedicated camera, I would have put more effort into getting better lighting or being eye level with the subject. But where these were binoculars, it was more fun to just snap a photo of what I was seeing, and I think that is the better use case for these. Especially because this gets us to the biggest problem I need to address up front, the resolution. As advertised, 2592 by 1936 pixels, which is only a 5 megapixel resolution, and the files are compressed JPEGs, most being saved at less than a meg. On the positive side, this is going to take you a long time to fill that included 64 gigabyte memory card, but most point-and-shoot cameras today are well over 20 megabytes, and many phones are twice that. The only 5 megapixel camera I can find online are made for kids aged 3 to 13, or hybrids meant for instant film photos. And this is the first thing I'd change in the next version of these. Looking at these photos, they really aren't bad for the spontaneous capture of birds you're seeing. My early ones do show the importance of dialing in the focus correctly during the setup, because despite the birds looking sharp through the binoculars, I was missing the focus from the camera. Shooting in auto gets good results most of the time, but tends to overexpose highlights. This is when it is great to have the manual controls to pull exposure back a bit, and even white balance adjustments if the results are a little too warm or cool. One funny thing I noticed after reviewing my photos is how off-center some of them were. This is from having the camera down the left barrel, but while using both eyes through the binoculars, you are seeing further to the right. Anyone who has used a camera with a viewfinder off from the lens will be familiar with this phenomenon, called a parallax error. It is exaggerated when you're close to your subject, but birds do tend to be far away, so most of the time you probably won't notice. Even more fun than taking photos is that these can capture video. The videos are recorded at 30 frames per second, and at that same 2592 by 1936 resolution as the photos. So your videos are in a 4:3 aspect ratio, and they do capture mono audio. I really like being able to quickly capture bird behavior with these, but the lack of image stabilization makes holding the camera steady really important. This is probably the biggest selling point I've noticed, as I've been able to capture some moments while out birding lately where a photo wouldn't have been adequate. Here's a clip of a scolding robin I watched last week. You can hear it, a catbird, and some warblers that were mobbing an unseen predator, probably an outdoor cat. Have you noticed the chime at the beginning of the videos? This is one quirk where the video is actually recording before you press the record button. Here's a little test I set up in my high-tech lab, pointing the binoculars at a timer and pressing record as close as I could to the 10-second mark. then stopping it around 15 seconds. And here is how that came out of the binoculars. The video starts just before 7 seconds, and you can see the shake from my touching the camera. Then hear the click of the button and the chime from the camera indicating that it is recording. All the videos I took have this roughly 4-second pre-capture, which is a surprise feature and great to have for birds, especially when filming behavior, but unfortunately then you always have that annoying chime recorded too. I hate to bring up resolution again, but this is the one thing I really want MatataXplore to improve, because we need more than 5 megapixels. Here's a video I took of a family of Canada geese on the Solvias. And here, standing in the same location, is a video I took with my phone, an iPhone 16 Pro, first at 1x, 2x, 5x, and then using the digital zoom up to 15, which, yeah, it's a better video. The final piece of the Solvias to discuss is their built-in identification tool. I honestly didn't have much luck using the software built into the binoculars, which after you take a photo, you press the AI button and it pretty quickly gives you an ID, and even a confidence rating. Unfortunately, this was wrong for me almost every single time. There aren't any regional filters, so it often suggested species from different continents, and confidently, like calling this red-winged blackbird an austral blackbird, or this wild turkey a Seychelles magpie robin. I sought out those aforementioned Canada geese as a big, distinct bird, but snow goose was still the top choice. The only bird that the on-device AI got right was a ring-necked pheasant, which really just makes me wonder what data their model was trained on. I asked my contact at MatataXplore about the mis-IDs, and they said a new firmware is coming out that should improve this. That should be out soon, and fortunately this is the convenient thing about software. They can keep updating it. That said, I'm basing this review off what I had at the time, and to quote the tech legend Marques Brownlee, never, ever buy a tech product based on the promise of future software updates. MatataXplore does have an app, which you can connect to the binoculars via an on-device Wi-Fi. In the app is where you'll find a better AI, which after saving a photo locally, you can use and it appears to be much more accurate. Here's a great blackback gull that the on-device AI suggested was an endangered South American Ulrog's gull, but the AI on the app got right. Along with IDing the bird, there is a full text, apparently from a generative AI, as it gives both information on the bird, like habitat, behavioral hints, and this funky bird watching tip that recommends using binoculars or telescopes for observation. Good advice. Interestingly, it also gives an image description, which says the picture shows 2 great blackback gulls, but unfortunately it doesn't. More on that in a minute. As advertised, the app can ID things beyond birds. Here I uploaded a photo of a mayfly I had recently put on iNaturalist, hoping for a more specific ID. I'm actually impressed that it stopped at mayfly and didn't jump to an unknown species. You can see it lists order, Ephemeroptera, then says families, various, genus, multiple, etc. There is even a write-up in the bird watching tips section that is really helpful. This feature in the app does need to be connected to the internet to work, so it is using some cloud-based AI rather than something on device. Given that we don't know what that is or where it's going, I guess I'd say be careful with what you upload. And like most AI products, it's going to be using a lot of energy if you have those concerns with AI use. This gets me back to my original question. Do we need technology in our binoculars? In the short time I've been using these, I've come up with 2 use cases where I think the answer is yes, and when these are definitely a good buy. The first is simple, the convenience. Having a camera built right into your binoculars and being able to snap a photo immediately means you're always prepared to capture that special moment, be it memorable or unexpected. 2 instances stick out in my testing. First, I was on my back porch testing the Solvias for the first time, when by absolute dumb luck, a black vulture flew over me. Black vultures are still very rare in Maine. They've become annual in the state, but certainly still noteworthy. I snapped a couple pics and even some video. Perfectly adequate documentation of a rarity to keep the eBird police off my back. The second one is similar. Just recently I was on a vacation to Monhegan Island, a birding hotspot off mid-coast Maine, which is incredible during migration, but not a ton to see in the summer. Without much promise, I left my camera at home and only took the Solvias, but sure enough found a rare gull in the harbor. Behind the great blackback gull is the lesser blackback gull, only the second summer record of the species on Monhegan and one I definitely wanted a photo of. Conveniently, I had the Solvias and didn't have to fumble around trying to digiscope with my phone and binoculars. The other case is cost. These are only $400. Of course there are better cameras out there, but buying an R5 and a zoom lens is going to set you back nearly $6,000. Even the modern bridge cameras like Sony's updated RX10 V is $2,300. And don't forget, you've probably spent more than that on just a comparable pair of binoculars. So while I think the software needs some improvements, getting a good pair of binoculars that can take photos right in them is a steal at $400. And if you've made it this far, please subscribe. It is the best way you can support me, and I'm closing in on 5,000 subscribers, which is going to be a really fun milestone for me. And go watch my review of the West Indies Field Guides. That video barely got any views, but it was one of my favorite I've ever made. Alright, until next time, and as always, thanks for watching.